This NFL Week 11 injury news and updates and player prop targets edition of the Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code MACHINE to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
Taking a shot to ground downfield. He makes the catch, and he gets in for the touchdown. The catch is made by Calvin Ridley. Wilson, good as he throws deep downfield. It's going to be caught.
Welcome, everyone, to the Propcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. NFL Week 11 on the horizon here as we continue rolling through the NFL season. Got a doozy happening on Thursday night football. We'll get into all the games with injury implications as we always do on this episode weekly. But joining me here to help me break down all the injuries that are happening around the National Football League, you know him as the DGen Doc. It's Sebastian Fearon. Sebastian, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How about yourself? Week 11 we talked about last week, but really pretenders start separating themselves from the contenders, and it's becoming clear. I mean, it's definitely gonna be tight in that NFC race, so it's getting exciting.
Yeah, 100%. Again, a lot of teams that are going to be fighting for playoff spots in the wild card, spots there in their respective conferences in the AFC and the NFC. So it's definitely going to be fun watching these games as we start entering the latter part of the season here for the NFL. But again, we still have a lot of football left to be played here for this week. Some surprising things that we just talking offline. We'll talk about the Texans in a later on in the episode because they do play on Monday night against the Dallas Cowgirls. But as far as our player prop targets went last week, Sebastian, I think we did a pretty good job again of talking about guys that we should be looking at in the player prop market.
Yeah, I mean, Chase Brown, we talked about his under rushing, which despite, all those points and all that game, and I think he had like almost close to 35 at half, he still cashed his under and his alt under. So that was nice. We talked about actually some defensive stuff. New England sack props we were talking about. They had 9 against Caleb Williams and the Bears there, as well as the Chargers had a decent amount of sacks on Will Levis. I think they had 8 or something like that. So 2 teams we were kind of hitting, hey, offensive line problems, or Will Levis is just playing, so maybe you want to take any sack prop you can. And then CMC receiving was another one we hit on that really came in well. I think he only had 30 yards on the ground, but he had like 60 through the air. So a couple things we hit on again, especially if you jumped on those prices early, you should have cashed along with us.
Yeah, 100%. And hopefully we'll continue finding those player prop targets here for NFL Week 11, of course. Before we do get over to the action for Thursday night football and Week 11, if you haven't already downloaded the SGPN app, you're missing out. The SGPN app gives you access to all the podcasts on the network, and also the picks page. It's all in one convenient app. Plus, like all of our content in the app is completely free. Just type in SGPN in your app store to download it today. All right, Sebastian, let's get into it here, man, for NFL Week 11. We'll start it off here with Thursday night football, NFC East battle. It's going to be a big one here for division implications between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders. Looking at the lines for this game, I am seeing the Eagles are currently a 3.5-point home favorite with a total of 48.5 here, Sebastian. But what are we looking at for Commanders and the Eagles?
Yeah, man, I really think this is going to be a really good game. Division rivalry for the lead in the NFC East. I mean, Commanders obviously the surprise team, one of the surprise teams in the NFL, and they're playing really well. Now they are a little bit more of the beat up team this week. Really, a lot of for both these teams, they have a lot of guys who are kind of that limited range where you kind of expect them to play still. The big guy that potentially could be back for Washington is running back Brian Robinson Jr. 2 times limited practice, including today with his hamstring. He said he feels good. I'm kind of expecting him to play. Now, this is a tough one because hamstrings, they're a little bit tricky, as we saw with, Nico Collins and things like that. But at this point, I think that this is the week that he does return. I have to put, however, probably not as much good news for Marshawn Lattimore, their newly acquired cornerback, who they could really use in this matchup. 2 straight DNPs. So it's going to be tough for him to we'll see what happens tomorrow. If he's able to give anything close to a full, we'll see. But at this point, with no practice in 2 days, I'm not very hopeful for Marshawn Lattimore. They've got a bunch of offensive linemen, including center Tyler Biotish, and 3 offensive tackles in Brandon Coleman, Cornelius Lucas, and Andrew Wiley. All limited practices, 2 straight days. It's kind of a short week. I don't think guys need full practices here. So I am expecting all those guys to be able to go, which is huge because Commanders are really, last game they finished the game playing with their right tackle number 3. So the tackle position has been a little bit of a revolving door, and they've been able to deal with it. But obviously, if they can get Lucas, their starter, back, that would be huge. So I do expect their offensive line and Robinson to be back. I'm not as hopeful for the defense with Marshawn Lattimore. Flipping over to the other side, the big guy who can return is Eagles left tackle Jordan Mailata. Activated off IR, and he was a full practice today after being limited yesterday. So that's a great sign. Looks like he's going to play. It's huge for him to come back. We saw Hurts have some of those fumble issues, getting back with the turnover bug against pass rush when the Commanders defense has really stepped up. So if Mailata was not out there, it'd be a big concern, but it looks like he's going to be back. And then they've got a bunch of guys limited, Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith, Nakobe Dean, Darius Slay. All did not practice yesterday, all limited practice today. Obviously a great sign that they're going to be out there. So Eagles definitely a little bit healthier just because I'm expecting Marshawn Lattimore not to play. Again, short week. We'll see what happens. But most of these teams are going to look like what they basically look like all year from that standpoint.
Yeah, it feels like a big Saquon Barkley week
Yep.
for the Eagles this week, especially how porous the Commanders' rush defense has been thus far this season there. So, definitely be looking at that for sure. We do talk about player props here, and I tweeted this out about Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, in this game here, Sebastian. I'll mention this, and I'll talk about it on the Propcast tomorrow as well, so maybe you could get to this one early. Over 4.5 receptions for Scary Terry. 9 of the 10 games he's faced against the Eagles, he's had at least 5 or more catches in those spots here. I think that he continues to get the targets and the receptions in this game. And if they are playing from behind, they're going to have to be throwing the football here. With Jaden Daniels, obviously, as a quarterback, they're looking for his number 1 target with Jaden Daniels there. With Terry McLaurin there. So I did snap that one early. The VIG is definitely on the move there. So I think it's all the way up to like -135, -145 now. So, but I think it's still a very playable option there.
Yeah, no, I saw that earlier today, and I definitely jumped on that once you saw that because I was like, yeah, that's a great point. I agree with you, Barkley, McLaurin. I also look at a guy like Zach Ertz. You have the revenge angle of him coming back to Philly. You
That's
also
true.
have, Philly linebackers. I know Dean and Zach Braun have been a bit of a revelation in Philadelphia, but I still don't trust Nakobe Dean in coverage. I know he's looked better, but that was the big knock on him. I don't think, I think they've been fortunate to play some bad teams. I don't think the Eagles defense is as good as they showed against the Cowboys. I think that's just the Cowboys' ineptitude. So a guy like Zach Ertz has really been involved with the rookie as kind of being a safety valve over the middle. I like that. Or, the other ankle I could see is Austin Eckler out of the backfield as the running back. So some options of some guys that aren't the big 2 in Barkley and McLaurin.
All right, let's keep it rolling here. Let's get to the Sunday slate here. We'll start it here with the NFC North battle between the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. Bears are a 6-point home underdog in this game with a total of 41. Not injury news today that we got from the Bears organization, as they are shifting some things on the offensive side and the play calling there. Shane Waldron not going to be calling the plays there anymore for the Chicago Bears for the foreseeable future. And not sure how true the rumor is, but some of these veterans calling for Tyson Badgett to be the starting quarterback, and Caleb Williams possibly getting benched there. But we'll see what transpires there. But at least on the injury front here, Sebastian, what are we looking at for Packers and Bears?
Yeah, I don't know if Special Agent Bajan is really the answer there. But, obviously, I think the Shane Waldron news may be bigger than the injury news. But regardless of who's calling plays, they've got a problem on the offensive line. They already had right tackle Darnell Wright and left tackle Braxton Jones miss last week. Now, there's a chance they both come back. They're both dealing with some more minor things, not anything too significant. but they also just lost one of their best, arguably their best lineman in Tevin Jenkins. He was ruled out with an ankle injury. So we need to see where they're at. So they've got some big question marks. Again, these guys, definitely not ruled out, but there's definitely not confidence that they're all playing. So this is one to watch for. This Chicago offensive line, we've seen Caleb Williams. I mean, he's been getting beat up back there. Yeah. If he does not have time, he's someone who definitely needs time to process. He likes to run around. He makes some great plays, but if he is kind of, getting all this pressure right away, there's no chance that offense is going to be successful. So the offensive line is a big concern for for Chicago. And then on Green Bay, Marshawn Lloyd. He's a guy running back out of USC. He's coming back from IR. We'll see if he comes back this week. He just got activated. They were saying he was practicing in their bye week, things like that. So there's a chance he could come back in. I mean, Josh Jacobs has definitely been the bell cow, but who's the other guy, like Patrick Wilson or something like that? Someone who's relatively no name. They still give him some carry. So if he can take over that RB2 role in the future, it might be a little bit interesting. But really, it's the Bears' offensive line. Can they protect Caleb Williams?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big question mark, obviously, as it has been all throughout the season for the Chicago Bears. I also feel like he's holding the ball a little bit too long, is Caleb Williams there. But again, it's still his rookie year. I mean, you almost kind of feel bad for the guy, but then it's just like this is a completely different conversation where we're throwing these young quarterbacks out there from day one and just giving them the keys to the offense and expecting them to look like, all pro quarterbacks out there. It just doesn't work that way, anymore. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Sebastian, we'll get up to the next game. We'll go over to the Minnesota Vikings. They are in Tennessee, take on the Titans. Titans also catching 6 points at home here against the Minnesota Vikings. Total is sitting at 39.5 in this game. What are we looking at for Vikings and Titans?
Yeah, just really one big one here. Vikings running back Aaron Jones. Shout out to him. He really took a tough shot to the ribs. He basically got the wind knocked out of him, but he kind of took a little bit of rib injury there. He went out of the game, but he did return. I know for me, he cashed a nice little underdog slip with his rushing attempts over because he went out with like 15. He needed to get 2 more. So he got there. So shout out to him for coming back. Obviously a great sign. He was able to return to the game. We'll see how it progresses, but at this point, he's tracking to play. I'm pretty optimistic on Aaron Jones. The other one I'll note is that Tony Pollard, running back for the Titans, he is still dealing with that foot injury. We saw him kind of come in and out of the game last week, and that creates a little bit more opportunity for Tajay Spears. Expecting Minnesota to be playing with the lead and Tennessee to have to throw the ball, some dump-off opportunities for Spears out of the backfield, whether it's a fantasy option or just looking at some of his receptions or receiving. I think Spears is a little bit of a kind of underrated play with Pollard dealing with that foot injury and kind of the game script of this game.
All right, let's keep it rolling here. Next game on the board, we'll go over to a NFC North battle. This is going to be the game of the week. The Baltimore Ravens, they are in Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Steelers also catching 3 points here in this game. Sebastian, I don't remember the last time we saw a total this high between the Ravens and the Steelers. 48.5 is the number. We're usually used to seeing like 37.5, 39.5, like up to 40.5, but 48.5 is a number right now. This should be a fun one, Ravens Steelers.
Yeah, no, this is going to be absolutely great. You see the Steelers flag. I'm always so bad at that. Behind me, terrible towel. Big one in this household. When your team sucks, you kind of let the wife's team take over. I think this is going to be a great matchup, like you were saying. And I agree. It's usually a defensive battle. The Steelers play Lamar Jackson really well. And one of those reasons is they have some great edge pressure. And outside linebacker Alec Highsmith is going to be out this game. He's already been ruled out. See, Mike Tomlin's pretty nice on the injury front. He lets you know right up front. He doesn't really keep you guessing a lot. Now, it looks like he's dealing with a grade 2 low ankle sprain. So it's a low ankle, so that's always more optimistic. Probably about 2 to 3 weeks he's going to be out. So he won't be gone for too long. But the good news is they get back outside linebacker Nick Herbig is expected back from his hamstring injury. And look, Highsmith is definitely the better player, but Herbig is not that big of a drop-off. You already got Preston Smith coming over from the Packers too, because they needed that edge rush pressure because they were dealing with some injuries. So you get Herbig back, you add Preston Smith another week to the mix. I think they'll be just fine, obviously, with TJ Watt and Cam Hayward still on the offensive line or defensive line there. So that's really the big things is you look no Highsmith, but you get Herbig back again, Preston Smith there. I think from prop wise, I don't even know if this needs to be said, but the Baltimore Ravens pass defense can't stop anything.
Nope.
You've seen Jamar Chase absolutely tear him up. I think Russ Wilson's with that moon ball. I think he's able to have a day. Mike Williams is a guy I've liked really all season. Now that he's getting a chance, he got one pass thrown to him and it was a game-winning touchdown. So I think that's going to stick a little bit. with between him and Russ. And what I will say is, look, the Ravens picked up Tre'Davious White. He is tracking to play this week, but coming off an Achilles tear and an ACL tear in back-to-back seasons, he was not starting for the Los Angeles Rams, who don't exactly have lockdown corners right now. He was really struggling. So I know this potentially maybe new scenery might be better, but I'm not optimistic. I don't think you're going to insert Tre'Davious White in there and expect him to play. Also, last time we saw the Ravens, Kyle Hamilton was dealing with an injury, so we got to see how that tracks as well. The news was it wasn't as bad as originally thought for him, maybe just an ankle, but still, it doesn't look like he's going to be 100%. So Kyle Hamilton is definitely one to watch. He's just a huge part of that defense.
Yeah, you mentioned it, right? The Ravens have the best, if not one of the best, rush defenses this season, and we've continued cashing on running backs and taking their unders, right? We talked about Chase Brown for week 10. That one went under. There was another running back in there that we had just taken the unders on. I think there hasn't been a running back this season that's had more than 55 rushing yards against his Pittsburgh Steelers. Against his Baltimore Ravens rush defense. So yeah, I think that you would probably go back to Russell Wilson in this game. I know George Pickens, with all the theatrics that he does have on the field, but he's been able to flourish with Russell Wilson there as the quarterback there. And I was very heavy on George Pickens last week, and he got me to the window there. So maybe something could be looking at. Russell Wilson has been really, really good, in the first 3 games here for the Steelers. Anything else for Steelers Ravens here, Sebastian?
No, I'm just really stoked for that game. I will say I think Lamar has only beat them one time in the last 7 games or 8 games or something like that. My co-host Derek is a big Lurs fan, so he always likes to drop that knowledge there. So despite how good the Ravens do look, just be careful taking them as, I believe they're a road favorite.
3 points, yeah.
Careful. Yeah, just be careful taking that. We'll see.
Yeah, I really do like the Steelers plus that 3 in this game, honestly. For you, I know we don't talk about sides and totals much here, but I think that 3 for the Steelers look really, really good at home this week. All right, before we continue the conversation here for week 11, let me tell everyone about our good friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all sports: NFL, college football, college basketball, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, and more. Boost over is upon us, which means you're getting a spooky amount of profit boost and much more. And you can now use specials and boosts on all flex entries. So sign up with promo code MACHINE to claim your special pick and a first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's underdogfantasy.com. Make sure you have promo code MACHINE. All right, Sebastian, let's keep it going here, my man. We'll go over to the next game on the board here we want to get to. That's going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are going to be in Detroit to take on the Lions. Lions laying 13 points here at home with a total of 47. Obviously, this has to do a lot with the Jaguars quarterback situation here, Sebastian, but I'll let you take it away.
Yeah. Look, Trevor Lawrence, I think it's a situation where I think we talked about it last week, but left shoulder, so not throwing shoulder injury. I think the conversation is, look, surgery is going to be needed at some point, but are we going to do it now or do we wait till the end of the season type of a deal? Obviously, these guys are competitors. They don't want to miss any time. You never know when your last snap's going to be. So I understand it, but I think, Jacksonville's got to look at this as they view Goldilocks there as their franchise quarterback. So I think they're ultimately going to make the decision of, hey, look, you're going to shut him down for the season, and then we're going to have Mac Jones, McCorkle do his thing. But that decision hasn't been made yet, so we'll kind of see there. But I would assume at that point, that's kind of the assumption I'm taking. The line kind of tells me that as well. So we'll see there. Really, the other big one is Lions tight end Sam Laporta. He went out of the game with a shoulder injury. They're calling him day-to-day. Looks like it might just be an AC sprain. So, one to watch, but I'm pretty optimistic that Laporta has a good chance of being able to play. So we'll see there. But again, with the Trevor Lawrence thing, I think he's dealing with a labrum or an AC sprain, one of those where you don't need to get it repaired right now. But if the longer you wait, the more likelihood there is for some injury risk there. So I think it's really kind of a no-brainer for them. Similar to the Dak situation. Look, your season's lost. There's no need to throw your franchise quarterback out there.
Let's just say they do decide to come out this week, say, hey, Trevor Lawrence is done for the season. We're going to opt for surgery. What's the typical recovery time for?
Yeah. When we talk about a labrum repair, it's about 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
He'll be fine for next year, essentially. Even if it's an AC sprain, same thing. That's what the grade 3 was what Anthony Richardson had last year when they decided to shut him down. The good thing is it's his non-throwing shoulder, right, too. So, I mean, really, he's just got to be good enough to take hits, not to throw the ball. Whereas Anthony Richardson, it was his throwing shoulder. Now, is that the reason that he can't hit the side of a barn? I don't know, because he never could in college either. But yeah, I'm not too worried about Trevor Lawrence when he gets this surgery.
All right. We'll go over to the next game we want to get to here. That's going to be the Las Vegas Raiders. They are in South Beach to take on the Miami Dolphins, fresh off of their Monday night football victory against the Rams. They'll head back home to take on the Raiders. Dolphins right now are a 7.5-point home favorite with a total of 44. Sebastian, what are we looking at for Raiders and Dolphins?
Yeah, a couple guys that are going to be out for the Dolphins. Right tackle Austin Jackson out for the season with his knee injury. He's going to need surgery. And then cornerback Kendall Fuller, who's been playing well for them alongside Jalen Ramsey, out with a concussion. They already ruled him out for this week, so tells you he's dealing with some symptoms there pretty heavily. And then they claimed former starting linebacker from Seattle, Tyrell Dodson, who had started every game for Seattle and has, I think, over 70 or 80 tackles. They picked him up for free and likely insert him right into the lineup. I mean, he's fresh. He's obviously been a starting linebacker. Their defense has kind of been riddled with injuries, so why not throw him out there? And then you got on the Las Vegas Raiders side, tight end Michael Mayer was an interesting kind of weird story. He's been out since week 3 due to personal reasons, but he returned to practice this week. So, look, I don't know what the hell's going on in Las Vegas, but look, their former first round pick, I believe, is going to be back in the lineup there. So we'll see if him and Bowers are a nice matchup. I mean, that offense is just horrific. So I don't know that game. I mean, it could be a sneaky game where, just similar to Baltimore, the Raiders sneak up on a team who's, has some vulnerabilities, especially on defense. But this also could be a very, very boring game.
Yeah, I think it's also maybe a little bit of a tricky spot for the Dolphins as well. Like, they were off that crushing game against the Bills, flew across the country. Give them a lot of credit for going in there getting the victory. I don't know if it's how good the Dolphins looked or maybe how bad the Rams are, or maybe if they're a little bit fraudulent. I'm not sure, but now having to travel all the way back home here could be a little bit tricky spot. And the Raiders, again, having extended rest there as well. So, definitely keep an eye on this game here for sure. All right, we'll keep it rolling here. The next game we want to get to, we'll go over to the Seattle Seahawks. They are coming off of their bye week. They are headed to San Francisco to take on the Niners. NFC matchup here, or NFC West matchup, I should say. Niners laying 6.5 here at home with a total of 49.5 here. Sebastian and Christian McCaffrey looked pretty good in his first game back, at least in the season debut for the Niners there. But we can get to that in a minute. But at least for injuries, what are we looking at for Seahawks and Niners?
Yeah. For the injury side, look, we talked about them losing, former starting linebacker Tyrell Dodson. Obviously, they think they have a plan there. They put safety Kavon Wallace on the IR. They've been missing a couple safeties for the season. A guy, Rashawn Jenkins, they had to put him on the IR earlier. So they're going to be pretty thin in that defensive secondary back there. However, they are expected to get back DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf is expected to be back this week, which is great for fantasy owners. San Francisco's defense is not the vaunted defense they've been in the past. It's pretty much Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and then everybody else. So they're definitely susceptible. I'm interested in this game. I don't think, San Francisco is nearly as good as they've been in the past. I think they're very vulnerable. I mean, Seattle's not really a team I love to back, but I think coming off some rest could be a nice opportunity, especially getting DK back, at least for the offense to have some success there. So I do think that some of the, wide receiver props, whether you want to go Geno passing or something like that, is an opportunity there for Seattle to get home.
Let's talk about Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, it was his first game back. We talked about him a lot earlier in the season. We talked about him last week making his debut. Looked pretty good. I thought he played a little bit more than I honestly anticipated, Sebastian. But what was your initial thoughts with CMC returning for the San Francisco 49ers?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, he got a lot of touches and he looked good. I mean, I think that's all we can look for right now. I mean, obviously, there's definitely going to be some rust to take off there, but I expect them to – I mean, look, they were very conservative with this injury. They gave him 3 months off essentially to figure it out. So I think they're ready to. I mean, they kind of have to. I mean, they're in a position where they're right now. I think they're in the wild card. They might be out of the playoffs right now if the playoffs ended today. I think actually. So they have to fight for their lives here, and I think they're going to ride McCaffrey as much as they can. I think he's going to continue to get a ton of touches, especially in the receiving game. I mean, obviously Tampa Bay's rush defense is a little bit better than Seattle, so this may be a game where his rushing ability is kind of on display. But yeah, I'm throwing Christian McCaffrey in my lineups. I'm fully trusting there, and I'll be looking to see what their numbers are at. We'll see. Obviously they get pretty crazy, but if they continue to be reasonable, I'm going to keep taking them.
I think one thing that I've been really profitable on this season is taking receiving yards. Running back receiving yards against the Seattle Seahawks. That's been a very profitable angle this week. Last week, I mean, we saw with Christian McCaffrey, I think he had 6 receptions in that game for the San Francisco 49ers. So I think those checkdowns are going to continue being there. For Brock Purdy, obviously, with Christian McCaffrey being back, that number's not quite out yet, but I think that's something I'm going to jump on immediately once those props do drop for Christian McCaffrey receiving yards in this game against the Seattle Seahawks.
Love it.
All right, excuse me. All right, let's keep it rolling here, Sebastian. We'll get over to the next game we want to talk about here. We'll go over to the Atlanta Falcons. They are in Denver to take on the Broncos. Broncos are laying 2.5 points here at home with a total of 44. What are we looking at for Falcons and the Broncos?
Yeah, I think this is a situation where, look, it's just really the Falcons, some defense. The cornerback Mike Hughes ruled out with a neck injury. Neck injuries are always a little bit tricky. It could be kind of just a stinger, some muscle soreness, not a big deal, or something structural where we got to see a specialist. And now we're talking about season or career threatening. So neck injury is always one you want to hold your breath, but he was cleared after an MRI. So Mike Hughes should be fine. However, linebacker Troy Anderson, he picked up a knee injury, had to sit out several weeks, and he aggravated that injury this past week. He's a solid linebacker, so this is going to be a decent loss for them. We'll see how long he's out, but anytime someone aggravates a previous injury, that's typically not a great sign, and they're out for a decent amount of time. So expect Anderson to be out, but Hughes to be back in. The only other thing I have on this game is, Sean Payton said Audric Estime was supposed to get more touches last week. He did. He was somewhat impressed. He said he's expected to get more touches this week. So it looks like the Estime train is picking up steam, and the Javonte Williams, stock is dropping fast. So not really breaking news, but I think that is a situation where whether you want to fade Javonte Williams or whether you want to try to jump on the Estime train, I think there's some opportunity there against a Atlanta defense that's okay, but they're not great against the run.
Yeah, they haven't been really great against the run here. So I think that, again, something we'll continue monitoring here with that running back room situation for the Denver Broncos there. So I think maybe continue fading Javonte Williams, at least in the running game there for the Denver Broncos. Game of the week, number 2, I guess we can say, the Kansas City Chiefs. They are in Buffalo, take on the Bills. Bills currently laying 2.5 points at home with a total of 46 in this game here, Sebastian. What are we looking at for Chiefs and the Bills?
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is a dog. That's never happened, right? That's going to be great. The books never learn, man. All right, so this is actually going to be probably one of the lengthiest ones we have. There's a decent amount of injury news here. So we've got linebacker Matt Milano got his practice window activated. I'm, to be frank, shocked. When they said he had a biceps tear, I mean, that's usually a season-ending injury to require season-ending surgery. I was shocked they didn't rule him out for the season immediately. So the fact that he's back, I know it's been several weeks, but it's not been nearly as long as I thought. Maybe he had a chance to return for a late playoff push. So I'm, whether clearly the injury wasn't either as serious or he got some type of procedure or whatever, but we'll see. Just because your practice window is open does not mean you play that week. It's really kind of 50-50 depending on how they're tracking. So one to watch, but he would be a major boost for that defense. Meanwhile, Bills rookie wide receiver Keon Coleman out again, already ruled out on a Monday. Not really a good sign. Typically, I'd say that the fact he's not on IR is a good sign. However, the Buffalo Bills just had Taron Johnson be active and just kept ruling him out for about 5 or 6 weeks in a row. So I don't trust this Bills organization just because Keon Coleman's not been put on IR. It doesn't mean he's going to miss extended time. So I'm not very optimistic there on Coleman moving forward. And then Dalton Kincaid. this is kind of the big one to see how this one tracks. He took a hard fall on his left knee, and then essentially he tried to return to the game, wasn't really able to do much, had to wind up ultimately shutting it down. The concern is it going to be a mild PCL strain or some type of bursitis? If it's just kind of a bursitis deal, the inflammation of the bursa under the kneecap, not a huge deal. He should be fine. But if it is a little bit of that ligament damage of the PCL is a pesky injury. So it's going to be hard for him to play this week if it is the PCL. So it's kind of, there's a little bit of a decent range of outcomes here. There's a chance that he's totally fine for this week, or there's a chance he's going to be out 2 or 3 weeks. So really it just depends on, is it his PCL or his bursitis, which practice status should let us know if we don't flat out find out. Sometimes they're a little bit more forthcoming when it comes to injuries. On the Chiefs side, Juju Smith-Schuster looks like he is expected to be back off his hamstring injury. We'll see where his role is with the addition of DeAndre Hopkins. So we'll see how he fits in there. And then the two big ones, two guys who are their practice window was opened up. Running back Isaiah Pacheco, coming off that fibular fracture he suffered in week 2. Fractures, it's really like once that bone is healed, as long as it's healed properly, they're pretty much good to go. There's not a really high re-injury risk, things like that. Now, they did say that Pacheco and Charles Omenihu, who's the defensive end coming off an ACL tear, who's also had his practice window open, that they're a little bit further out than Juju Smith-Schuster. So it looks like Juju Smith-Schuster, I'd say, is probable, but Pacheco and Omenihu are definitely questionable. Omenihu, a guy coming off an ACL tear who has not had a ton of time. He tore his ACL late in the playoffs in that AFC Championship game against the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm not very hopeful for Omenihu definitely this week. I think he's going to take a lot more time to ramp up, which makes sense. I mean, they really just named for the playoffs. But Pacheco's a guy that once he does get back, you can start trusting him from a health standpoint. It's really, how does the split look with Kareem Hunt? Kareem Hunt's been carrying that load and doing it pretty damn well. They're very similar running backs that play a very similar style of football. So I'm very intrigued to see, what the splits are when Pacheco does come back. We just have to see if that is this week.
Team that's undefeated right now, getting some reinforcements back, are the Kansas City Chiefs here. So looks like, I don't want to say they're well on their way to a three-peat. There's a long way to go to there, but at least securing the AFC West division is definitely in their sights. And then obviously getting ready to possibly clinch the number 1 seed and maybe and make another run to the Super Bowl. But a long way to go here for the Kansas City Chiefs. But again, still the only undefeated team left. Very fortunate last week. We'll say that much on that blocked field goal at the end there by the Kansas City Chiefs there. But again, staying undefeated are the Chiefs. All right, Sebastian, before we do get over to the last couple of games here on the Week 11 schedule, let me tell everyone about our friends over at BetUS. We're brought to you by BetUS. Bet with the best in the business. BetUS. BetUS has been around for more than 30 years. Easily deposit using cryptocurrency. Get lightning fast payouts. U.S. players are always welcome. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. Promo code SGPN. So they know that we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sports book. Then we're also brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's prop partner Rhythm is the #1 AI-powered back sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or have Rhythm build a model for you. Now you can track props in the Rhythm app. NFL picks, NFL props, college football, college basketball, and NBA. Rhythm has it all. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All right, Sebastian, let's get over to the prime time games here for Week 11. We started with Sunday Night Football. The Cincinnati Bengals, they're in LA to take on the Chargers. Chargers laying 1.5 here at home with a total of 47. What are we looking at for Bengals Chargers?
Yeah, really the big one is T. Higgins. He participated in a walkthrough on Monday in their kind of bonus practice coming off that mini bye on Thursday night. But it's still determined to whether he's going to practice or not. I mean, he has not practiced at all in any capacity. So it's still questionable. I'd love to say that he's got a good chance, but we got to see him get back on the field in any capacity. So Really, truly, T. Higgins still questionable, where left tackle Orlando Brown is a lot more probable for this week. He has been practicing. He had a chance to play last week. So looks like Brown will be good, but Higgins is really the big question mark. Outside of that, everything's pretty kosher. I mean, you always got to be watching Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa just loves to live on the injury report. So we'll see how that kind of turns out there.
All right, let's keep it rolling here. We'll get over to the last game on Monday Night Football, Battle of the Texas Teams. Houston Texans, they are in Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Cowboys, again, catching 7.5 points here at home with a total of 42 here. I know you and I were talking about Nico Collins offline, Sebastian, but what's the latest on Nico Collins for the Texans for this Monday Night Football game?
Yeah, we get to end it with some pretty cut and dry stuff here. Nico Collins expected to practice this week and return to play. I mean, he was obviously close to playing last week, so I think he's going to be just fine. They took the conservative approach, which, let's be honest, I mean, the Colts are guess hanging around because they're letting them, but they really should lock up that division pretty quickly. So I think Nico Collins being back for the playoffs is much bigger, not risking a re-injury. So as much as it sucks for fantasy and the potential to beat Detroit last week, I think it is a good that they're kind of being cautious there. Expect him to play. And then linebacker DeMarvion Overshown, he had some knee bursitis, appears minor, negative X-ray. He should be good to go. And then the big one, Dak Prescott, confirmed out for the season to fix that avulsion tear. Avulsion tear is essentially the tear is so bad it partially rips off the bone it's connected to. So shit doesn't feel good. It's really hard injury to rehab. Look, he'll be fine for next season, but I mean, there's no chance he's able to come back for this season. So, it's going to be Cooper Rush or Trey Lance, and we're going to get to laugh at the Cowgirls for the next however many weeks. So,
yeah, I think that was just like a smart move, really, to kind of let Dak get the surgery because we already knew that this team wasn't really going anywhere.
Yeah,
after the past couple of weeks there for the Cowboys. So definitely, I think a lot of changes coming for this Cowboys team in the offseason. We'll see if that does, in fact, transpire for them. But again, we'll continue laughing at their expense for the rest of the season. And that is going to I wanted to ask you, I think I mentioned this last, I actually tweeted this out. I was like, Cooper Rush looked pretty bad. I mean, he looked bad last week. I mean, how soon do you think we see maybe Trey Lance out there? I know he got in a couple plays there.
Yeah,
he has some packages for him, but do you think at some point it'll come where, hey, here's Trey Lance to see what do you have out there? Maybe, secure another backup quarterback role for the Cowboys or maybe somewhere else for him. But do you think there's a chance for Trey Lance gets out there sometime?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's the chance. I will say, I mean, it seems like Mike McCarthy is a pretty conservative coach. I think he is going to continue to roll Cooper Rush out there for as long as Jerry Jones will let him. I think eventually there's going to be a time where ownership is just like, dude, just throw the guy out there to see what we have. I mean, because like you said, their chances of the playoffs are pretty much over.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest. I thought Cooper Rush, when he came in 2022, he kind of wasn't too bad. He steadied the waters there and kind of had that team, looking pretty decent. I mean, he looked completely awful. He looked lost. I don't know if it was jitters or what, or if there's been some regression there. So I think there's a potential that Cooper Rush is still serviceable. But I do think it gets to the point, regardless of, a couple weeks down the line, they're going to throw Trey Lance out there. I mean, they definitely had some packages for him, but they got to let the guy throw and just let's see where it is. I'm not hopeful, but I don't have to suffer through it. So,
yeah, it's honestly just kind of seeing what he has out there. But we'll see what happens. Maybe we could keep laughing at that expense there as well. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this NFL Week 11 episode of the Injury News and Updates. A lot of great information again by Sebastian. But Sebastian, anything else you want to mention, my man? Also, if you want to plug your show over on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network.
No. Well, I mean, look, man, I appreciate you always serving it up nicely. So I hope you guys are enjoying this stuff. As Munaf always says, get your pen and paper out. So you can write some of this stuff down. I know I do, just like you guys, making sure that we track these, because as soon as they jump out, it's just consistently the prices go down, and that's just how it is. So be to the first to the market there. But yeah, if you want to come, talk injuries, hang out, drink some whiskey with Derek and my Monday and Thursdays live, 7:15 Eastern time. Our Monday show, a lot more fantasy heavy, a lot more injury heavy. Thursday, it's all about how can we make you guys some money. So, we got our best bets, we've got our totals, we've got our things in that. So come hang out, check out the new show there, the DGen Docs on YouTube.
There you go. Make sure you guys check out Sebastian over at the DGen Docs. They do a lot of great work there. So definitely give them a follow over on their YouTube page, and of course wherever you do get your respective audio players, whether it's on Apple, whether it's on Spotify. Would definitely greatly appreciate that. Make sure you guys follow Sebastian over on the Twitter machine at the DGen Doc. You can follow me there as well at SportsNerd824. We'll be back next week, same time, same place for NFL Week 12. So look out for us then. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off, and always remember to let it ride.